Oh, okay. Best joke in the world time. Once upon a time, there was a guy named Bob. And all Bob ever wanted to do his entire life was be a trolley conductor in San Francisco. So he saved up a lot of money and he went to trolley school. And, you know, Bob is a really nice guy. He's really good-hearted and a lot of people just love him to pieces, but he's not the brightest crayon in the box, if you know what I mean. So he goes into trolley conductor school and he tries pretty hard, but once exam times come, he fails. And the instructors are like, darn it, they really loved Bob and they didn't have the heart to tell him that he didn't pass. And so they were like, okay, Bob, you know what? You were really close. We're going to give you another try. So Bob is ecstatic. He goes back into school. He works a lot harder than he did the first time. Exam times comes and he's like, I guess he just blanks, you know, he still doesn't pass. So the instructor's like, okay, Bob, you know what? One more time. If you don't pass this time, you just can't be a conductor. So try really, really hard. So he goes back in, he doesn't eat, he doesn't sleep, he just studies. Exam time comes again, and he still doesn't pass. The instructors are like, you know what? Bob, congratulations. You're a conductor, you pass. Bob is ecstatic. He's got his trolley route all figured out. He's been on the job for like a week. He loves the people, he loves the work. It's Bob's dream come true. So one day, he's up at the top of one of those really steep San Francisco hills. He looks at the bottom, and what does he see? An old lady crossing the street with a walker, without looking both ways, mind you. So, the way Bob figures it in his mind, now remember, this is Bob. In his mind, he figures, if I slow down, I'll still hit her, but I'll maim her, and it'll be awful. But if I really punch it, I'll just kill her. Real quick, painless, much more of a humane way to go. So Bob puts the pedal to the metal, he floors it, and just splatters this old lady everywhere. People are outraged. Trolley conductor kills old woman. Mortified. So he goes to jail, and he gets the death sentence. He goes into the prison, he's there for a couple years, and, you know, Bob being the type of guy that he is, everyone just falls in love with him because it's kind of obvious that he doesn't really mean any harm, but he's just a little... So, his execution date comes. The guards come in and they're like, okay, Bob, you know what? This is your last meal. What would you like? Anything in the world, what would you like? And so Bob looks at him and he goes, you know, guys, I just want a really big banana. And they're like, okay, no, I don't think you understand, Bob. You can have anything in the whole world. Steak, lobster, what do you want? And Bob's like, no, really. I just want a really big banana. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? It's Bob, so whatever. They go out, they scour the entire town, every grocery store, and find the biggest, best banana they can possibly find. So they bring it back to Bob, and Bob is so pleased with it. He eats the whole thing in like 2 bites. And after he's finished eating, they take him into the execution room. They strap him into the electric chair. The chaplain comes in, reads him his final rites, all that stuff. They're like, okay, Bob, we'll see you later, man. I mean, they're going to miss him. They really, really like Bob. So they go into the control room and they flip the switch. They leave it on for whatever standard is, I don't really know. So they turn it off, they go back in. Bob's still alive. And they're like, you know what? I'm so sorry, Bob. This is really awful, but can you go back to your cell because there's obviously something wrong with the chair? And Bob's like, hey, no problem. I understand. So he goes back to his cell and they inspect the electric chair and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, to see. And so a week goes by. They go back into his cell. Like, okay, Bob, this is your for real last meal. What do you want? And Bob's like, oh, really, guys? I just want a really big banana. And they're like, okay, cool. Bananas again. It's fine. So they go out, they scour the entire county, find the biggest, ripest banana they can possibly find, bring it back to Bob, and he is so happy. He eats his banana, and he goes back into the execution room. They strap him in, chaplain, all that junk. Okay, Bob, we'll see you later, man. He go into the control room. They're like, let's leave it on a little bit longer this time because we don't want that thing to happen again. So they turn it on 5 minutes. There's like smoke coming off of Bob, and it smells like burnt hair. It's gross. So they flip it back off, go into the room, wave some of that smoke out, and Bob's sitting there and he's like, hey guys, what's going on? They're like, damn it, Bob, back in your cell. Bob goes back to his cell. They check out the chair again. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing to speak of. And so a week later, they go back into Bob's cell. Like, okay, Bob, this is it. You're going to die today. What is the last thing that you want to eat? And Bob's like, guys, I really just want a huge banana. And they're like, okay, bananas. Gotcha. They go out and they love Bob. They want him to have what he wants. And so they go out, they scour the entire state and find the biggest banana they can possibly find. I mean, he had to eat it with a knife and fork. That's how big this banana was. So they bring it back to him. He really, really enjoys it. They take him to the execution room. They've got his feet in water. They're pouring buckets of water at him at this point because they're like, we need to get this done. Our electric bill's going to be through the roof. So they get him all hooked up, last rites, la la la. Bye, Bob. Go into the control room. They flip on the switch for 15 minutes. I mean, there is smoke and sparks coming off of Bob. It is just nasty and horrible and gross. They go back into the room. Now there's too much smoke. They can't see Bob. So they bring in these fans. They got people in there with newspapers waving smoke out of the room. They got the fans pointed in. It takes them like 10 minutes just to get enough smoke out to where they can even see Bob. So they get some smoke out. They go back into the room, and Bob's like, hey guys, what's going on? They're like, okay. It's pretty obvious that fate doesn't want Bob to die. So these people, they were smart enough to know not to mess with fate. They decide that they're going to let Bob go. And Bob is ecstatic because he gets to leave now and pursue other things, possibly. And so he gets his stuff packed up and he's leaving the prison. The prison guards kind of get together and they meet up with Bob, and they're like, okay, Bob, what is it about those bananas that makes it so that you can't be electrocuted? And Bob looks at him and he goes, it's got nothing to do with the bananas. I'm just a really bad conductor. Funny.